Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us today, Friday evening, 12th of February 2021, at 6 p.m. India time, to our second edition of Insights. This is an initiative by Ideas Consulting Group, where our intention is to get experts to discuss topics which are complex, and our endeavor would be to make it simple. Today's topic is romancing digital brands digitally, and are we overdoing it? Apparently, digital marketing is very simple. Everybody posts on Facebook, Instagram. We know what is the search campaign. However, it is not as simple as it makes out to be. It is actually quite complex. And with the increased digital adoption, somewhat forced by the pandemic that has been uh, impacting the way we are living our lives, the way businesses is being conducted, not only in India, across the globe, it is important that we must take a step back to understand what's happening, what is beyond what is very simple digital marketing, what are the opportunities which are emerging as we are going forward through the pandemic and beyond the pandemic, whenever nobody knows the world will come back to its pre-pandemic days. A lot of brands have started allocating greater budget to digital marketing. However, our analysis, our observation suggests that it's become little more uh, happening to be on the digital platform without much thinking going on behind what is the role of digital media, digital marketing, and digital connectivity, if I may use the word, between brands and consumers and businesses and brands and consumers, which we felt should be discussed in a forum like this. Today, I have two very interesting experts with me. Both are AG. One is Atanu Ghosh, another is Ananda Ghosh. Both of them have learned digital marketing on their own. They have started dabbling with digital marketing when most of us perhaps did not know what that meant. Atanu, I would say, is a pioneer in the sense that he had started an e-commerce venture much before we became very, I would say, addicted to the Flipkarts and the Amazons of the world in this country. Ananda's passion is physics, and combined it with creativity, he makes a very unique combination. Atanu teaches at several premier B schools in the country. He is extremely popular and sought after by the students. Anando and his team at Budbee manages many brands and some of the biggest healthcare brands in this country, and they are supporting the digital marketing efforts for several brands across the globe. Very young team, extremely passionate team, and I think a team which has got huge um, differentiation because of the creativity they bring, the understanding of digital marketing, and the use of technology in digital marketing. Thank you, Atanu and Anando, to be with us this evening. And as I was mentioning, Friday evening, so let's not hold people from their glasses of whiskey, which could be risky. So let us try and close by 7. Let me begin by first asking both of you one by one, if you could share with the audience your journey from the day you began dabbling with digital marketing. Let me begin with you, Atanu.
Okay, Dipanda, first of all, thank you for inviting me in this forum and share my experience. As you rightly said that I run an e-commerce company, which is more into research and analytics. The purpose of the e-commerce company was more into research and analytics, and but that's a different story. But yes, to run that company initially when it started, that was way back in 2012-13. Digital marketing was its very early days. So I was trying to find out, experts who could do the digital marketing for us. But unfortunately, at that point of time, there was practically none. Most of the people who claimed to be digital marketers were mostly, in absence of better words, they were quacks, because they did not have the theoretical foundation behind them, and most of them are trying to, like the way quacks work, they will try out something and then they'll say, okay, it doesn't work, and something like that. So then that's the time, as you rightly said, that I started learning on my own. And as you know, I come from a technology background, so I've been doing technology almost all my life. So it was comparatively easy for me to pick up the technology part of it, technology part of digital marketing, and of course the marketing part, from my background, I was aware of. So it was possible for me to learn that, and the initial successes were quite encouraging, and that's how it all started. That's how basically, then since then, of course, digital marketing has made.
Let me get Ananda's journey, then I come back to both of you in terms of your observation regarding digital marketing before Corona, which is BC, now DC during Corona, and what you anticipate it to be AC after Corona. Ananda, if you could share your journey with everybody.
Sure. So I started my digital marketing journey per se in the year 2005, but not for a company in Calcutta, but I was working in a tech-driven company at some point in 2005, where we got a client from the US who wanted to market his brand through a portal called MySpace. And it was new to us. Like, we were creating websites, but we did not know anything about MySpace. We knew about eBay as a selling portal, but MySpace is what they used for connecting digitally and selling services or ideas or even second-hand products. So that's how digital marketing excited me at that point. Then we started receiving project ideas about search engine optimization. So we had to learn, because we did not know who would teach us, because we did not have many people in Calcutta teaching search engine optimization. So again, getting the proper books, the proper ebooks, was how we thought digital marketing helped us at that point, because they were marketing the ebooks that taught us SEO. And that somehow excited me, along with the creative angle of representing the marketing strategy. That's how the creativity, my knowledge, or my acquired knowledge of creativity, has helped me. So that was the beginning, and then one thing got up to the other, and people started socially connecting with others through portals like Orkut, like Yahoo, like Rediff. Then came Facebook, the giant, and they said that we would not be advertising on Facebook. We would not be using Facebook as an advertisement portal, but gradually, when there's an opportunity, people would take that and advertise or communicate their products or services or their brands. And connecting with so many people, I love to communicate, I love to connect with people. That's how I would say digital marketing has helped me, because now with the help of digital marketing, we can connect to people we want to connect to. That is the most ideal point. There's no point blanketing the entire city with my products and services, where maybe 1% of them is my buyer. So that's how digital marketing actually excited me, and that's how this journey started.
Correct. In fact, Ananda, one of the words which I heard after many years is Orkut. And I'm sure Atanu will agree that Orkut was heard in India much before. So Ananda, from Orkut to Facebook, then the pandemic, what is the shift that you are seeing in digital marketing overall? If you could throw your light. What has been the impact of the pandemic? What are the things that have changed, which are important for businesses to sort of take stock of?
Yeah, in that context, let me first, set that the scope and the definition of digital marketing right, not right exactly, but how it is expanding. See, it started with, when we say digital marketing, it started with actually digital marketing communication. So even today, when we talk about digital marketing, we are essentially meaning digital marketing communication. But what has happened is digital marketing is any digital technology that is transforming marketing. So whether we talk about digital products, whether we talk about algorithmic pricing, the way the search pricing and all this thing happens, the way look at the e-commerce business in terms of the places where the products are being sold. So if you go to the classical 4 P's of marketing: product, price, place, and promotion, you will see all 4 P's, and now there are 7 P's. All of them have been transformed by digital technology. So what pandemic has done, see, this is true for any area, not just digital marketing. There is no new technology as such that has got invented in last 1 year in the pandemic. What has happened is that people have realized that they can do things without being physically present. And same applies in case of digital marketing. So all these things they can do with digital products instead of physical products, like education. So it's a classic case of digital product coming up in place of a physical product. Talk about the place, that direct to home or any e-commerce business. So what has happened is that people have now started to realize it's possible to engage and to consume products and services without having to physically travel. And all the technology was there. It was the mindset. People still felt that I need to meet face to face when it is not actually required. And now it's a habit changing behavior. So I think this behavior will be there to stay even in the new normal.
In fact, Atanu, you make a very important and pertinent point that I think it's all in the mind. I mean, for example, if I look at learning, today children in school are actually learning on the video platform, which wouldn't have been the case if things were normal. I think to an extent, pandemic forced us to a certain paradigm shifts.
Yes.
Ananda, what are your thoughts on this? Could you just add to what Atanu has said?
Definitely. Pre-pandemic, digital marketing was catching up, definitely. Uh, Not as fast as it is outside India, but yes, people was finding the need, and there was also the factor of spending less and reaching more people more effectively. Because, as I said, there is no point in blanketing the entire country with what you have to sell. Rather, target individuals who are more likely to buy your products and services. So that was catching up. What the pandemic did was it created a necessity for service providers and sellers to be visible even with people being at their homes. Very rightly pointed out, they found it as a necessity. So as we'll say that necessity is the mother of all inventions. Though digital marketing had been invented long back, it is better used, I would say, not post pandemic, but a prelude to the pandemic. People had started understanding how to use digital marketing more effectively, not just connecting with people and posting images. And Facebook or just any social media platform is not restricting digital marketing. Digital marketing, as Professor said, I'm calling you Professor, sir. As you rightly pointed out, it's anything that we are using digitally to communicate better, not just communicate better, and understand needs and fill the supply demand gap if there is any. So ideally, the pandemic has propelled digital marketing to some extent. The shift was probably due maybe in 2 or 3 more years, but it has been preponed. That's what I would say.
In fact, Ananda, it's not only about communicating. I think it is also about interacting. I give an example about school children studying. We know that you have huge experience and you are actually working with some of the top healthcare brands in the country. Would you like to share some of the developments, or what are the things that have shifted in healthcare where digital connectivity, if I may broaden the scope of our discussion, has played a very important role?
See, before we get into the healthcare sector, the biggest example of how digital marketing or the digital platforms have, we were discussing about communication. We are having this discussion on a digital platform, which otherwise we would have probably been at your office and we would be discussing, and that would have probably an audience. We are reaching out to a larger audience if when we are being digital. Now, coming to the healthcare segment, during the pandemic, they were, you know, probably the worst hit, if you ask me, because they were in the center of whatever was happening. At the same time, the doctors were, I would say, very happy because the patients were communicating with them not by coming to the hospital and crowding, but in ways of new apps that were launched that help them communicate with the patients over video conferencing, understanding what the patient is going through, and be there when they were needed. So reducing the cost, reducing the risk factor, reducing a lot of time that was taken to meet the doctor, that was reduced. uh, Hospitals, they've tied up with different platforms so that they are also more easily reachable. And what we saw as a shift in the communication pattern was that the hospitals or even doctors, they were more openly communicating with people. They were trying to, make people understand. And it was easier for them to communicate with people at one go. Now, without the possibility of digital communication, uh, to reach out to so many people, it would have been difficult. Now, with the digital
Absolutely.
possibility, it was much widely, communicated about what to do, what not to do, and even the marketing strategies have
In
changed.
fact, on a lighter note, it was easier to get a doctor's visit done because of the digital platform than otherwise. Although
Absolutely.
you have been teaching in several premier B schools, and they represent this what is called the millennial generation. What is your experience of this generation? How are they embracing digital as a way of life? And please note my words, I'm using the word digital as a way of life. What is your experience, and how will that impact journey
Yeah,
as
I
we go
think
forward?
I think there are several layers in that. In a space of entertainment, in a space of non serious activity, if I may say so. Of course, digital. They are absolutely digital. They're watching movies on digital platforms. They're playing games on digital platforms. So that's there. However, on the more serious platforms, let's say on a more serious context, let's say academics, let's say even use of technology for business purpose, probably there is still some hesitation, some bottlenecks, because when it comes to academics, especially the large part of the learning community still needs a lot of hand-holding and prodding. So they would need I mean we have not gone into a community where people are responsible enough to learn on their own. I'm talking of not just students but also the professionals. We don't tend to learn on our own unless somebody tells us to learn. Either that can be a teacher, that can be our manager, or organization, unless we are forced to learn, we don't learn. So that's the problem. So that the physical education system has a role to play, I believe, because you need that monitoring system till now. So that the utility of that may be debated. Also, in terms of the use of technology. So if I am using, so this, so many times what I feel is that this is a very interesting thing that I have observed, that many people, many students come saying that I want to do digital marketing, I want to learn digital marketing. So when I ask them that, why do you want to learn digital marketing? No, I like Facebook, I like YouTube, I watch YouTube. So when I ask them that, okay, watching YouTube video is different, but when you're actually setting up a campaign on a platform like Google or Facebook, you need to be a lot more technical. That is, it's probably not that much of non-serious activity like watching a YouTube video. So do you realize that? So it's a different thing watching a YouTube video is not the same thing as becoming a digital marketer. That's far more serious. That's far more quote unquote techie. So that is something probably it's still there. Okay, it's not that students like millennials like digital platform, but as consumers, whether I like this digital platform as a way of exploring it for making things, for creating new things, probably a section of them do, but a large section of them probably still not up there.
In fact, Atanu, you have hit the nail on the head. In fact, I also tried to learn digital marketing.
I
then I realized that just by reading books or articles or whatever, I think that's where hard work is required. In the meanwhile, there is a very interesting comment from Prashun Banerjee. Thank you, Prashun, for the comment. He says, half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is, I don't know which half. This has now been resolved with precision digital marketing. You are absolutely right. However, I think what is happening now, and this is to both Atanu and Anando, I see there are too many ads in whatever. I just use Facebook. I don't use any other medium. I think there are too many ads in a place like Facebook, whereas in LinkedIn, you hardly find any ads. Very few comparatively. So is there an overkill? And if you believe so, what should marketeers sort of take into consideration in terms of looking at, let's look at social media first as a option for digital marketing. Atanu, if you could answer first, and then I'll go to Anand.
Yeah, I think the question here is that of permission marketing. So if I look at it from a consumer perspective, I need to get marketed about those products which I need. So I don't want to get marketed about a product I don't need. Okay, like that's what happens in telecalling in most of the cases. Now, if I look at from the other side, the marketer's side, the marketer needs to know that I need something. Okay, only then the marketer will be able to market. So if I need, let's say, a car, and Deepakda needs an apartment, and Anando needs maybe a iPhone or whatever, then the advertiser needs to know that I need a car and not an apartment. Otherwise, the advertiser is going to communicate about apartment to me and car to Anando and iPhone to Deepakda. So most cases, what happens is that they advertise all three to all three of us. So that's what we call over marketing. Now the thing that we don't realize is that in order for the advertiser to do that, we have to give away that information. So how does the advertiser know that I want a car? Because I have to give away that information. So that's what these marketing platforms do, that they collect directly or indirectly the information about my choices. And when that goes on to the advertiser is able to use that choices and market to it. However, there comes the question of privacy. So that's where, today the digital marketing is at crossroads. So when you say that, okay, I don't want a carpet bombing of advertisements, I don't want all sorts of advertisements, I only want those which I need, I also must be ready to share that information with the marketer in some way or the other, so that I get the information of the products that I need. So it's a very, very interesting, dilemma that is there, and which leads into the bigger question of the privacy and the ethics around data in the entire space of digital marketing.
We'll come to that, Atanu. I think you have raised a very valid point. I have got some thoughts on that. Ananda, your thoughts, please, on this overkill and.
On a lighter note, I guess the overkill is probably an indication of an Atmanirbhar Bharat now, because too many people are launching their businesses and they understand that using social media as a tool for advertising is easier for them, because they have been using that platform to communicate with others. They have seen how others communicate. They have seen how brands communicate with others. But with the lack of knowledge of how to use the platform, what they end up doing is, as Atanuda said, that they end up blanket or carpet bombing everyone with all the information that they have. So targeting an audience and creating campaigns based on the information that you have received or the information you feel you can use through Facebook's inbuilt tools or any other platform's inbuilt tools to understand which kind of audience will take your services, which kind of audience or which demography, which age group, what interest group would be more interested in your products. So any marketer has to understand or do a need analysis before advertising or communicating about their products. So it's easy to be a Facebook user, it's easy to be a Facebook marketer, but it's equally important to be an informed Facebook marketer. Otherwise, this is what will happen. You will spend a lot of money and you will not know whether that money is working or not. Whether you are using the tools that are available to justify what you're spending. See, most of the times there are marketers, there are digital marketers, and there are traditional marketers. So there is one common point which everybody should discuss, that is ROI, return on investment. If I advertise in a newspaper, I'll think, because I'm spending so much. But the moment it comes to digital marketing, since you're spending a fraction of what you would be spending otherwise, somewhere you forget to ask that question, what is my return on my investment? And then set up tools or set up platforms, or if required, create tools that would give you that insight. If I'm spending 1 rupee, am I earning 10 rupees out of it? That is very important. Once people start.
In fact, Ananda.
Yes.
Yeah, please complete, and then I'll say.
Once people start calculating their spends based on their returns, that is when people would actually, think of using these tools, because that is ultimately what is going to help you in the future.
Let me borrow something which Atanu always says. He always says return on investment should not be calculated only on the media investment that you on digital. There is an investment of creative creation also. And nobody is measuring the ROI from a creative perspective. Most of the people think that whichever agency can give me a lot of creatives is actually doing a great job, which I think is absolutely humbug. You should give space for creatives to work, and you must discover which is the type of creative which works and which does not work. There's an interesting question from Shlok Jaiswal. Shlok, thank you for the question. And that leads to a question which I have in my notes. And I'll take this, I would request Ananda, you take this question first before I go to Atanu. So he says is, what should digital marketers deepen their focus on, as in go deep in a market with many similar and identical offerings? I'll just add to this, Ananda, since you are a practicing digital marketing professional, I request you to talk of what are the less utilized DM options and the opportunities which are available for marketers in digital marketing. Atanu, I will be asking you this after Ananda comments.
See, if you ask me, again, we as professionals, digital marketing professionals, we should not restrict ourselves to any specific platform, because today everybody uses a smartphone. Different stratas of the economy, they have smartphones in their hands because these are easily available today. A smartphone can start from as low as 5,000 rupees. So basic understanding is that everybody is reachable, right? So
Right.
that primary focus point should, create this concept that anything, any media that is digital can be used for digital marketing. Not just Facebook, not just Instagram, not just SEO, not just Google Maps. I know I'll keep on saying not just and keep on adding points, but not many people think of Google Maps as a tool of marketing their products or services. Because see, if you're looking at comfort options, you would always give a location to your search. That is how Google search would work. And the moment you give in a location, any result that comes in is preceded by Google Maps. So is your brand or is your company or is your service listed on maps? Basic. You ask anyone to search anything, they'll go on Google first. They'll not go on Yahoo, they'll not go on Bling, they'll not go on X, Y, Z, they'll go on Google because it has the lion's market share. So if Google has X, Y, Z tools, all of them can be utilized for marketing. So that is the understanding. You need
I
to
remember you were mentioning Quora as a very interesting tool for healthcare marketing. Would you like to just briefly talk about it?
see, if we talk about Quora, it basically is question or answers. That is how it is placed. And it is a question and answer bank for anything you're searching. You have a question. The moment you put a question mark in your Google search, Quora will have a question similar to that and has been answered, and that result will come on the first page on Google search. So being there when people have a question is a very good way to market you as I would say, as an influencer or as a knowledge provider. And anybody who provides knowledge or gives correct information, factual information, is always respected by the consumer. So,
okay. Atanu, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, see, I think,
Anand, I'll come back to you.
yeah. So, when you have a lot of similar products, identical offerings in the market, essentially we are talking of a market that is very mature from a category brand perspective. So usually in this kind of market, obviously your digital marketing strategy has to evolve around a few ideas. For example, you need to use, let's say, long tail keywords, because to be more specific, because I mean, let's say shoes. Okay, so you will not search shoes. Okay, how many of us will search shoes? Okay, we may search digital marketing, or we may search, let's say, electric vehicle. Okay, but will not search shoes because shoes is too generic. It's a very mature market. Will not search toothpaste. Probably will search toothpaste with, herbal toothpaste or something, some specialty. So you need to. So there is a product question. That means, is your product really same as that of all other products in the market? I don't think any product is totally same as all other products. Otherwise, the product would not anyway have existed, and they would not have anything to market. Actually, the fact that product exists, there must be some differentiation. And in a market where you have both the product and the category is mature, then you have to highlight that differentiation and put that in the marketing, in the marketing strategy. So that may be through a long tail keyword, that may be to specialize, posting, that may be answering some of the questions in Quora. So that's where the digital marketing strategy will come in when you are dealing with a market where both product and category are very mature.
Is Twitter, LinkedIn not used as effectively as it should be by brands?
Depends on the type of brands that we're talking about. Yes, I have seen that the brands which, especially B2B brands, which can, normally a B2B brand will not do a typical kind of digital marketing, the search display kind of marketing, as they will not get much use of it, because you don't search for turbines. So if you're making turbines, okay, if you are making boilers, so how do you market? So there, of course, the most of the cases, what we will do is you will talk about the product inventions, scientific research that is happening in that space. If your company is doing something around that, and where do you write that? You write that in various social media platforms, professional social media platforms. LinkedIn can be one. There can be other professional platforms where there are buyers who are coming and trying to figure out the different types of boilers or different types of turbines, and they are trying to evaluate technically and see what is the advancement that has happened. So definitely those are the places which are not used, because typical search, social media, these are the low-hanging fruits, and they are the ones that for a B2C kind of an company, and that's what gives immediate results. So yeah.
In fact, I personally feel B2B businesses are not using digital communication means as effectively as they could. There is a long question from Mohua. It says lots of casual visitors with very high digital penetration, which is true. How can we get quality leads, because cost per lead is inching upwards every day? I presume she means that. However, we are experiencing paradigm shift in marketing post-COVID, but we can still see the brand that who are successful as presence in 360 degree. So is it true that only marketing through digital platform is not adequate? We have to be everywhere. And the last point she asks is, where products are not tangible, how to build trust? Because millennials are skeptical about security. So how can we build trust amongst consumers? Patulu, would you like to take the question? I will also invite after that.
Okay. Yeah. I think interesting questions from Mohua. So first of all, leads. Yes, quality of leads in the sense that ultimately you have to look at the cost of conversions and not the cost of lead, because many times what happens is that you get stuck with the cost of lead, and kind of you may get very cheap leads who have lower ability to convert. The second thing is that the attribution. So especially attribution is a big subject, and I think there was an earlier question on return on investment. So return on investment, the challenge of return on investment is not to calculate the return per se, but to calculate the return has happened because of what. So attributing the return. So a student may get converted through multiple channels and multiple touch points, and finding out the touch point and how much each touch point has actually contributed to his or her conversion. So that's a very important, in fact, it's not solved yet. It's an area of research. There are a lot of attribution models that are being experimented with. But yes, to answer the question, that lead, definitely the first point should be to calculate the cost of conversion and not the cost of lead. I think there was, what are the other questions?
So 360 degree marketing is required, or and how do you build?
Okay, yeah. See, ultimately, in which medium through which medium you market, it will depend on the consumption behavior of your audience. So I think there's another subsequent question also, whether print media is dead or not. See, it all depends on whether people are consuming print, not for advertisement. Nobody consumes advertisement as a product.
Media for advertisement.
People consume the content. So if print is being consumed, till the time print is consumed, print will survive. Till the time television is consumed, there will be advertisement through television. The day when people stop consuming print, which is happening. So in the West, obviously, print is not consumed that much anymore. In fact, it's consumed hardly. In India, it's still a long way to go. Till the time that happens, print will exist, television will exist, and let's say print specifically has a advantage of giving a very high impact for a very short duration. Let's say I need 100 leads tomorrow. Okay, and I decide that today I need 100 leads tomorrow. So theoretically, what I can do is I can print my ad. I can buy out every print media tomorrow, given the money that I have, and then every front page of every newspaper to think of will carry my ad, and I may actually get 100 leads. But I can't do that in digital. So today, if I think that I will take over the entire digital media, tomorrow, every search that happens for a particular course, let's say digital marketing course, will only show my result in Google. It will never happen, okay, because Google will show only one ad in it may be by #1 position, but it will not show 2 ads for my company. So if it is to create a very immediate impact, then print is actually very good. Okay, and that actually, if you look at it, as again going back to the question of the measurability, now why, in spite of the fact that digital has all the tools, all the techniques to measure, in spite of the fact you will see that many advertisers are comfortable with print. Okay, they will still go with print because of 2 reasons. Because they have seen print working in last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. So there's a long history. So they don't want to take the risk of breaking that. The second is that they know that tomorrow I give on day of Dhanteras, I give an ad of jewelry. That day at least additional 100 people will come to my store. They can't do that for digital. They can't make one ad in digital. I can't give an ad for a day and get a result on that day. I have to give the ad for last 6 months. And that if it's an event like something like Dhanteras, okay, I can't give an ad 3 months back on Dhanteras. People will not even take cognizance of it because Dhanteras is too far away. So on that particular day, I need to create the impact. So to answer the question, of course, I mean that's where the media mix comes up.
In fact, Amit Datta had asked this question whether print and TV is dead, and I think Atanu has answered. I'll just add 2 things to what Atanu has said before I will request Ananda for his opinion. My experience, a first point that Amazon, which is the biggest behemoth that we can think of, for those special days uses print. I think that's the biggest testimony print can have in terms of why it is required. And the other point which you mentioned about this business owners, some of them preferring print, of course, they have been successful, they can generate leads. I think one psychology that works is that since I look at the newspaper in the morning, if I see my ad, I believe others have also seen my ad. Whereas in a Facebook campaign, I may not see that. So that's also a psychological part of the entire journey as we go forward. Ananda, what else would you like to add to this? And in that, if you could take another question by Shlok, which says, what about talking to customers through WhatsApp business? What should be the communication in competitive exam sector? If you could answer both together.
First, coming to the cost of leads, as Atanu has rightfully mentioned, you do not count the cost of the lead, you count the cost of conversion, because a lead does not give you business. The conversion means business. So let's stick it to that. Now, creating leads or creating understanding the cost of leads, again, you'll have to be smart to understand who your audience is. And once you start filtering your audience, the quality of lead goes up. So the cost would also go up. It cannot be cheap as well as good. It has to be either cheap or good. So we have to understand that first. So a cheap lead might not be a conversion, but an expensive lead has a higher probability of conversion. That is how I would see it. That is first. Second is,
let me interrupt here for a second. I want to add another dimension of cost. One of the costs which a lot of businesses do not consider is the human effort that is needed to chase leads to conversion. Somehow that is a huge cost which nobody includes. I thought I'd just add it to it. Please continue, Ananda.
Right. Agreed. Absolutely. The next point was 360-degree marketing. See, digital alone cannot survive. Doesn't make sense. Right.
Correct.
And as you rightly said, Amazon being a benchmark to us because they do sales that nobody thinks of, and till a certain time, Bezos was the richest man on earth for some reason. Definitely, he's earned through the bigger chunk being Amazon. So special days, if it is a one-off case or 2 days or a 3 days maximum, 360-degree is required. And that does not mean only Facebook and print. They do it on Facebook, they do it on print, they do it on television, they do hoardings, they do magazines, they do landing pages, they have their website revamped for that specific occasion. So they actually corner you, cover you, and sell it to you, period. Now, if you look at the cost effectiveness, Amazon does not advertise for the entire 6 months on a newspaper if they have an event coming up. And if you ask me about advertising for an event, your digital media is of a tremendous support because it's a two-way communication that you get. If I advertise on a newspaper, I have to wait for my sale response to understand whether it has worked or not, or what people are talking about me. But if I advertise on, let's say, a social media platform, it's a two-way communication platform. It's a dialogue. So I can communicate with my audience, understand what they're liking, what they're not, and maybe create campaigns based on that. So
Right.
that gives you an advantage. Now, coming to the third question that you asked, I was concentrating on these.
WhatsApp, business WhatsApp.
Now, WhatsApp, they have launched business WhatsApp for the reason that people who do not have the option of creating a website or does not have the option of being digitally present very actively, a business WhatsApp helps them. You can have your catalog, your contact options, your mail. Now they've also integrated WhatsApp payment, so you can sell through WhatsApp also. So if you look at WhatsApp business as an entire package, it works. If you want to use a part of business WhatsApp, that works, but not to that extent. So it depends on the ultimate marketer or the brand, how they want to use the tools. As we discussed, tools, how to use the tools is very important. That is where an informed marketer would perform better than a marketer who's trying to figure out what is working and what is not.
Excellent. In fact, there is a comment which is very interesting, and I fully agree to it. I'm sure Ananda and Atanu will. Shobik has made a comment. Thank you, Shobik, for the comment. When we discuss digital marketing and say products or services should be omnipresent, why do we leave OTT platforms, which I feel is perhaps underutilized? And I think that's a future which is there. There are many questions, but before that,
can I budget there? Can I just budget there? This OTT platform, actually, it was part of what I was trying to say, but I somehow missed it. Very good point. If you open Facebook today, you will see something that comes up on your timeline. It's an advertisement that asks you to advertise on OTT platforms. Because today people are not using your regular set-top boxes or DTH services to watch television. Everything is on the mobile, and it is cheaper as well. For a Star, you see Hotstar. For a Z, you see Z5, and not just one specific channel, the entire gamut, along with content created by others. So an ideal place to be, because people are always this with their mobile.
In fact, a lot of questions to tackle, but before that, Atanu, one of the words that I'm hearing all over the place is digital transformation. I mean, is it just a lip service or there should be more to it? I mean, I want you to lead this discussion. Ananda can join you after you have completed. And Ananda, when you are talking about digital transformation, one point on which I want you to comment is this accelerated digital adoption actually an opportunity for small budget advertisers? Just answer that. Atanu, digital transformation.
Yeah, see what has happened. So digital transformation basically means that as an organization, you become a digital organization. How do you bring digital to the core of your organization? That's what digital transformation is. Now, the origin of this is, if you look at any business in let's say 10 years, 20 years back, the information technology, or today what we are, when we say technology, we usually mean information technology, was only in the periphery. Okay, even whether you talk about a large business, whether it's a small business, it was never considered to be core to the core competency to the business. But today, if you look at, let's say, banking, what is banking? Banking is nothing but technology. Is transaction. All the transactions are happening through technology. You talk about security, you talk about online transaction, is all technology. If you look at even retail, okay, so with e-commerce, is all about technology. So we talk about education, we talk about retail, we talk about finance. Technology is the core. Now, for an organization who used to do banking, or for an organization who used to do retailing, or for an organization who used to do education, technology was never considered to be their core. Naturally, their strategy was not around technology. There was the people were not aligned to technology, not aware of technology. As a result, we have seen a lot of disruptions that have happened. A lot of companies, large companies, that have got disrupted because of technology. Okay. There are many examples, starting from Kodak, starting from even here, the entire music industry, that we talked about the OTT platform. We are seeing the transformation there. So these are big disruptions that have happened. So what we are saying is that in whichever business you are in, you have to make technology a core part of your business. And how do you build that? Because that's not easy. Because one is learning new things, but that's easier. What is difficult is the resistance to learn. Because typically the first thing that will happen is that I am an educator, I am a retailer. Why should I learn technology? Okay, technology is not something that is required to be learned. I will leave it to maybe a small set of people, or a small department, and that's trivial. Okay, technology is trivial. That's a typical way of looking at it. Okay, it can be done by anybody. And because our business is retail, our business is banking and all that stuff. So this is what digital transformation is all about. So you have to look at, so it's a part of, it's a strategy, basically a strategic roadmap. How do you make your organization ready? How do you change the mindset of the senior management, the topmost management, that they have to think technology? A lot of education is required, a lot of learning is required. So if today, if organizations are not getting along that path of digital transformation, it will soon get disrupted by companies who are smarter and who are able to adopt digital technology.
Great. Ananda, your thoughts, please, on digital transformation, and what are you observing around you?
First thing I would say is that change is the only thing that is constant, right? Times have changed, period. If you're not digitally savvy as a brand, you cannot create an impression about your brand to your consumer.
Right.
That is very important, because today the consumer is getting modern. Your buyer, your customer, your client, they are getting modern. You cannot lag behind. You cannot say, I do not have this facility. Even I just received a message from my telecommunication provider and said, we are available on WhatsApp. You can even pay your bills there. Why are they doing it? I would have anyways gone to, let's say, a net banking or their site and made the payment, but they're making it easier. See, they have to, it's no longer about standing out, because if you aren't doing it, your competitor is doing it. So how do you tackle it? You have to be ready for tomorrow. That's the transformation that has happened, and further transformations would happen. More of augmented reality and virtual reality would come into the marketing space. People are not talking about that yet. There are tools available on your social media platform which allows you to create augmented reality content, but nobody is utilizing it because they have not yet felt the need for it. Now I'm speaking about this, maybe someone is listening to this might happen tomorrow, might happen in a week, in a month, in a year, but the tools are there for your transformation. You just need to open your eyes, understand the requirement, and get it done.
In fact, Ananda and Atanu, I just want to add a little bit to what you both have said. I think technology is the foundation, but I think the bigger challenge is all about policies, processes, people, and this entire concept of digital responsiveness, which becomes very important. The time that you take to respond to a digitally generated lead to a large extent determines whether the lead will be with you or will go to your competitor. And you spoke about augmented reality. I know for sure one of the largest real estate marketing companies in Kolkata sold as 87% of the number of flats they sold in June pre-pandemic as in June pandemic by showing the virtual tour of the flat. And we know that in real estate, that site visit is a key. And that is where the digital so the transformation is where the technology will drive it. But I think people, processes, policies would be a very important element of the transformation. And one more thing which I want to add is it is not only about the customer side. What about the supplier side? People who are in the business ecosystem. I think it is very important to look at what are the digital touch points across the entire value chain, from the raw material till the post customer experience feedback. I think the digital touch points need to be identified. They need to be, one has to sort of articulate or sort of formalize what is the experience that you want to deliver at each touch point, and then use a combination of technology, people, processes, policies, etc., to deliver that touch point. We are running short of time. There are a couple of questions which I will take, and the final thing I will go to both of you will be this controversy about WhatsApp, privacy, etc., etc. And Atanu, I would also like, I know you are teaching blockchain in one premier institute, and what do you think blockchain would be doing as we go forward? But before that, a question. Two questions I'll combine into one. Sudeshna is asking, what is the best way of getting leverage out of Facebook in terms of generating business? Can it be as useful as Google, or it is one of the platform where we are hammering to the mind of the users regarding our existence and offers that we provide? That's question number one. And I think the next question is, in a way, linked to it. How effective is digital marketing in B2B services or say evolving services? Typically in evolving services, one doesn't know the consumption habit of the customer. In case of Turbine, for example, which Atanu gave, so people are attentive, Atanu. They are talking about, and we go to fixed sites and stick to the part. But what about a service line which is relatively new? Atanu, would you like to take both the questions together, please? Atanu, are you there? I think Atanu's connectivity is a problem.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to say whether Facebook is good or no. Can you hear me?
It dropped off a bit in between.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. We can hear you now.
Hello.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think. Okay. I think the signal dropped for some time. So yeah, it's not a straight-jacketed answer to say that Google is more effective or Facebook is more effective. It depends on situation, it depends on your marketing objective. If one was clearly more effective than the other, then the other would not have existed in the first place. So if both exist, as you know, for both Google and Facebook, marketing revenue is the major source of revenue. So there are strengths in both of these platforms. It is up to the situation and the expertise to use the platform effectively, aligned to the marketing objectives. Now coming to, I think the next question was about
how effective is digital marketing in B2B services or evolving services?
Oh, evolving services. So basically what we are saying as an evolving service, whether it is a B2B space or a B2C space, you are creating a market. So evolving, so let's say something like a Tesla, okay, electric vehicle kind of a market. So when you are developing a market, So you obviously you have to do a lot of branding. So a large portion of your marketing in general, and that too, I mean that includes your digital marketing effort, will go into branding. So if it is a B2B, the branding is for the end consumer. If it is the B2C, if it is a B2B, it is for the another company. Let's say what is Tata Steel doing? Why is Tata Steel giving so much of advertisements? Why is I know somebody who's today, even some of the government organizations are doing quite a bit of branding. They used to do before, now they're doing it in the digital space as well. Now, why do they do that? They do that to build credibility and trust. So it is not that immediately a business lead will come, a deal will close. So it's also important that when you say return on investment, also important to define what the return that you are expecting. Okay, so return is not necessarily a business lead. A return is, if you define the return in the form of building a credibility, how many people know about your brand, what is the trust, what is the improvement of trust that you could bring in, that is the return that you're looking at. And in such situations where you're actually developing a market, you have to you're taken yourself the onus of making people aware of the product, the category that you're bringing in, building trust in the whole thing, and all those. Just like any other marketing, you have to use other channels, the retail channels as well, to build that. Yeah.
So I will just add to it what Atanu has said. In a B2B situation, let's say we are a consulting firm. We are also B2B services. The important point is, in the digital space, we need to create enough footprints so that we get discovered if somebody is looking for the type of services or product that we market. And that is not an overnight effort. It needs consistent, continuous, comprehensive, and creative efforts to build that those footprints. Couple of more interesting questions. I mean, I think we will be overshooting the time, I'm afraid, but I must take the questions. I will go to Ananda with two questions together. One is, ORM is getting important in each passing day. One bad Google review is running 1,000 businesses. Other than pushing positive reviews, what are the other measures we should take? Nova, while Ananda will answer, I think I always believe that don't do anything which will force a person to comment negatively on the social media. That's the first part. Ananda will have a more informed this thing. There's an interesting comment by Shobhik. With stringent GDPR guidelines, privacy restrictions, don't you think it's hindering the growth as well as scope opportunities for digital marketeers? Although if you could answer that after Ananda answers. And Banti Mahanta has a very interesting question. What is the difference between B2B and B2C content marketing? Excellent. So Ananda, if you could take the ORM and this B2B, B2C content marketing, I'll come to Atanu for that stringent GDPR guidelines. Ananda.
I'm sure everybody here has seen, something called Netflix as an OTT platform. They've seen a lot of content on Netflix, and there has been. I will not name the show. I will not name the content maker because I'm not here to advertise them. But there has been a show which had a specific episode where they have been futuristic in saying that at some point, a person's rating would be the currency that drives your day-to-day life. So that is how important rating has become today, because you are influencing others through your rating. And people do not think twice before giving a 1 rating out of 5. They do not think twice. It's about the experience that they have, that they have, whatever they've experienced with the brand or with the services. And fair enough, they found it to be 1 out of 5. They've rated it. So it has become more important for brands to maintain quality and deliver what they have promised. See, nobody has nobody is here to just badmouth you as a brand. They will badmouth you on two conditions. One, if they're a competitor and you're doing better. Two, if you're a consumer who's not satisfied. Now, if you're a competitor and you are seeing that the other brand is doing better, how many negative reviews would you give? There's a limit to it. But
so long the positive far outnumber the negative, you are through.
Right.
You cannot prevent negative reviews.
Right. So it is very important to maintain your quality and be clear about your communication. That is, I would say, how important ORM is. And do not just use digital marketing as a tool to sell, but also to build your PR. That is also very important.
Yes.
So PR of the brand is also as important as the ROI or the lead generation cost or whatever cost you're looking at. The PR section is also very important. So that should also be kept in mind when we are talking about ORM or the reviews, or not just Google. Like, we work with a lot of restaurants, so even Swiggy, Zomato has ratings. As a user of services, even Uber gives ratings to riders, not just the drivers. So rating is basically showcasing how good you have been with the brand or with the customer. That,
Right.
I feel.
What is the difference between B2B and B2C content marketing? Quickly, Anando, if you could.
The basic difference is the change of audience, if you ask me.
Correct. One is little more technical, perhaps one is little less technical.
One is more mass, and the other is more, more pinpoint targeted, if you ask me.
Atanu, stringent GDPR guidelines and whether it's a hindrance to the growth as well as scope of opportunities. Your thoughts?
So there was a time when we were all happy to share our information, and that's how digital marketing used that information to sharpshoot. Probably we are going the other way around, where we are now feeling that we should be strict about sharing any and every information. My feeling is that somewhere it will reach a balance. All the laws that we're talking about, it will reach a balance, because remember that while we're sharing many things, we're also getting benefited out of that, and that's the reason why we are sharing. If you don't share, you have to pay for a Facebook account, as simple as that. Okay, or you have to pay for a Google search. Are you willing to do that? How many people are willing to do that? Because really, if I like a particular type of food, I really don't mind sharing with everybody. I don't mind. I do mind sharing my bank account with everybody, but I don't mind sharing what color of shirt I like. So there is a balance that will come in eventually, and especially Western societies by tradition has been very private, because because of a lower population density, they're by nature very private. So most of these privacy issues are driven by the Western society. There is some merit into it, but somewhere I feel that there will be a balance. And overall, I think yes, as long as we are not sharing bank account details and similar kind of stuff, passwords, etc., which no digital marketer actually needs. Digital marketer needs your preferences in pretty benign things, like what kind of dresses you want, what kind of food you like, that kind of stuff. This information people will be willing to share that, and the laws will be around that only. And to that extent, digital marketer will get benefited out of that information.
In fact, Atanu, in digital marketing, when we are advertising in Facebook only tells me how many people have you reached. So the examiner and the examinee is the same. So do you see, as we go forward, blockchain will be a tool to help?
That's the big challenge today, that you have the entire information being brokered, the entire ad space being brokered by few large behemoths like the Googles and the Facebooks of the world. And that's true not for just just for advertising. Most of the digital world, if you see, are largely monopolistic or duopolistic. So every player that you see, there are two players: Flipkart, Amazon, Ola, Uber. So everywhere there are two players. The reason for that is there are economic principles, or something called network effect, because of which this happens. And it is a well-researched phenomenon that why it happens. Now, the only way to break that is technologies like blockchain, but blockchain as a technology can do that. But blockchain essentially talks about a distributed network where no central authority is controlling stuff. However, that does need a lot of governance. Okay, so who mobilizes this network? Okay, so there is a huge question of governance, huge question of regulation around that. Technically, it's possible to get away from this kind of monopolistic behaviors, but I think still to make it commercially viable, a lot of governance and a lot of initiatives from the regulators has to come in. So we'll probably see this, but maybe a few years down the line, not
The
immediately.
final point for discussion, Australia, Google has to pay to the news authorities for content, and WhatsApp wants to change its privacy policy, and everybody seems to be shifting from WhatsApp to other groups. I will not name and advocate any. What is going to be the impact of this type of developments? First Atanu and then Anando.
As I mentioned, I think in the longer run, it will not really work. It will come to a normal where, of course, there'll be a choice in the hands of the people to share their private information and not to share. Today also is there, but only thing is that many of us probably are not aware. Many of us probably don't know that what kind of privacy settings we can do on Facebook, and that's what Facebook has been claiming, that we have given the tools in the hands of, we have given the locks on the keys, but if you don't lock your home, that's not my problem. So that's what they are doing. But a problem is that you have to learn how to lock. So there's a learning. It's not a simple lock.
First of all, where is the lock, and then how to lock?
You have to find out the lock and then know how to lock it. Okay, so that's the education part of it. So my feeling is that I don't think this paying for content etc. is going to work in the long run, because ultimately that's why Google has become popular. I mean, imagine that you have to pay for every search. Okay, well, how life would be? Would any of us be accept that kind of life where you pay for every search, or you have to pay for a Facebook account? So somewhere there'll be a line drawn. Yes, where there has been loopholes, those will be plugged. But it will be a Sena world, I guess. Okay, but I don't think we need to be unduly bothered about the concerns that are being expressed. Okay, WhatsApp, a lot of people have again come back to WhatsApp. There was a lot of hype around that, and I know many cases people have still come back to WhatsApp.
You know what people have told me? I have sent you message on that new platform, but I'm not looking at it because I'm looking at WhatsApp more often than this thing. Ananda, your thoughts? Your thoughts before we conclude.
The point that you first put out, in Australia, Google, Facebook, they have to pay for the news content that they are sharing on their platforms. So that actually answers the primary question: how effective is digital marketing?
Correct.
Right. All the hue and cry is from the news agencies, because their newspapers are generating lesser revenue through advertisements, because advertising on Facebook or Google or other platforms have become cheaper. Now, if you look at statistics, $100 spent on advertising in Australia, $53 out of that goes to Google, $28 goes to Facebook. The remaining $19 is shared by the others, including your traditional marketing. So that's how effective digital media is. So that answers the first question. Now, if you look at it from a humanitarian ground, yes, the hue and cry is good, because they are losing out business, they are going out of business. So nobody wants any company to close down. But from a marketer's point of view, it's really exciting, if you ask me. And it would become alarming cost-wise, because Google would not pay that money out of their pocket.
Right.
They'll charge the advertisers that money. If they don't, I'm happy. If they do, I'm not. So that is the first question about Google and Facebook, being charged in Australia. I don't think that would actually happen anywhere else. This is also, I believe, on trial, and finally they would, as Atanuda said, it would not stay for long. Now, speaking about WhatsApp and its privacy settings, everybody shares your data. And the data they're sharing is not for people to impersonate you, but to give you better services. And as we discussed, proper targeted communication to people who need the services and the products. They want to understand you better. And it's not that WhatsApp is sharing your data with anyone and everyone. And it's not that the regular data of who you're talking to, how much you're talking, and what you're talking about gets shared, because that is end-to-end encrypted. Nobody can touch that unless you're hacked. So WhatsApp, the data that they would probably be sharing is, what business accounts on WhatsApp you're communicating with. And it is the data from the WhatsApp business account that would be shared with Facebook, because Facebook again allows the marketer to target the audience with their communication. If I don't know, as we had discussed earlier, Deepak da looking for a flat, Atmanda looking for a car, me looking for an iPhone, I need to know that I'm looking for an iPhone. Right? My marketer, the iPhone seller, needs to know that I'm looking for an iPhone. How will they know that if I do not share the data? And then we complain that there are too many ads on Facebook. It actually contradicts itself. Right? So data sharing, as I said, it's not for impersonification. It is to understand you better. And everything is safe. It's secured. You're using your Visa card or your MasterCard in restaurants, even that data gets shared. You're taking petrol, even that data gets shared, whether you're paying by card or by cash. So, policies are developed based on these information. We should not have any problems with that. And I'm sure people would understand that quite fast, because as you said, they still expect the message to come on WhatsApp and not on the other platform.
Correct.
So there's a place of comfort as well.
We have overshot our time by 16 minutes. And I think there has been several questions. Thank you, everybody, for asking questions. And if I have not been able to answer any, please reach out to me on a one-on basis and we will definitely answer. To summarize, I think what is important is we must look at digital connectivity for any business or any individual for that matter as a sure shot tool for progressing further in this world as it emerges. It is just not about a Facebook ad or an Instagram post. I have always told Atanu that marketing is the set, digital marketing is the subset. Digital marketing is a way of communicating, and we must be very clear in our minds as to what is it that is the return that we are expecting through our digital marketing efforts. And it is not about leads, inquiries, and conversions alone. That could be one. There is a lot of work which I think digital marketing can do in terms of building brand, building strand, trust. Somebody, gentleman, Uchchash Karmakar, how can I promote my company in the digital platform? Uchchash, we would have loved to answer the question. Please get in touch with us through the email that you have received, because it will depend on the company that you are representing, and that will determine the digital platform. For us, it is extremely clear that the marketing strategy, the business goals is the starting point. Actually, the business goals is the starting point, and from there, the marketing strategy and digital marketing strategy is a subset of it. However, we are emphasizing that digital transformation in terms of creating the digital experience, digital touchpoint experience, digital responsiveness is a matter of process, policy, people, training, and most importantly, an attitude and mindset, which has to begin from the top of the organization. Otherwise, it can never be done. Thank you, Atanu. Thank you, Anando, for your time and your thoughts. We have had a wonderful session today. And I think we could have budgeted for a little more time. I didn't expect so many questions. I hope that the people who have participated in the webinar today feel benefited in terms of the time spent with us. We are there for you as a team, Atanu, Anando, myself, and the rest of the team, for meeting any of your digital marketing requirements, which I believe is going to define and redefine businesses. Thank you so much. All the best. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. And what should I say? No. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.